this video, I'll be testing this Coleman Sundome 6-person tent against some pretty heavy rain. Before rain testing this Sundome 6-person tent, I checked all the seams inside the tent and found that only the vent had been seam taped. The rest of the seams were not taped, but some of them had been inverted, like this green tent body to bathtub flooring seam, the vertical seams, and some of the middle seams because these seams have less rainfly protection. Seams that have more rainfly protection, like the window seam, door seam, and this mesh wall seam, have not been inverted. As for the rainfly, all the seams are taped. There's also bathtub flooring that extends up to about 8.5 inches. It didn't rain while I was using this Sundome tent, so I had to make do with this water hose, and here's what the rain test looked like. For this rain test, I concentrated the rainfall on these two walls of the tent. On this wall of the tent, I wanted to see if the water would drip onto the mesh of the window, and it did, as you can see the bottom part of the window right here. But nevertheless, the rainfly pole is still pretty useful because most of the heavy rain falls to the sides of the tent and not on the window. After about 30 minutes of this heavy rain, I stopped the test to check in on the tent. Do be careful to not let your door droop back into your tent or all the rainwater will get into your tent. I noticed that there was a little bit of leaking into the tent through the corner. Also, I noticed that the bathtub flooring seam was starting to feel very slightly damp. If you look carefully, you can see water inside the seam right here. But it hadn't dripped into the tent yet, so I decided to continue the rain test for another 5 minutes. At about the 35-minute mark, this was when I noticed the first few drops of water dripping into the tent from the bathtub flooring seam. All the flooring and fabric inside the tent were still completely dry though, even though they were put through quite a bit of heavy rain, especially the bottommost fabric as well as the flooring. On this wall here, I wanted to see if the rainfly could protect the mesh wall from getting wet, and it did. Even after 35 minutes of heavy pouring rain, all the fabric inside the tent was still dry, including the mesh wall. Even the bathtub flooring seam was completely dry. Do you know why one of the walls leaked while the other didn't? Well, look at the length of the rainfly. This wall with the white colored part of the rainfly has a lot more rainfly protection than this wall with the green colored part of the rainfly. More rainfly protection means less water flowing over the inner walls of the tent, less water coming into contact with the seams, and there's less leaking, of course. For rainy day ventilation, I liked that the mesh walls were well protected by the rainfly and no rain got into my tent, so I had a bit of airflow from there. Also, I could crack the windows open a bit if the wind isn't too heavy. On top of that, I also had a little bit of ventilation from this ground vent right here. Overall, I liked how well this Sundome tent did in terms of ventilation and also in heavy rain. I didn't add any additional waterproofing or seam sealant myself, and the Sundome tent held up to about 30 to 35 minutes of heavy rain. Obviously not the best and not the most waterproof tent in the market, but I think it's pretty decent for the price you pay. If you need the Sundome tent to last for longer in heavy rain, I highly recommend at least sealing the bathtub flooring seam here because that's the first place it's gonna leak. For a full review on this Coleman Sundome 6-person tent, check out this video right here. Thank you for watching, and I'll see ya in the next one.